It was just past dawn, 7:15 a.m., when a yelp ripped through the quiet of our farm, sharp enough to make the crows scatter from the oak trees. I was on the front porch with my granddad, Hank Wheeler, both of us nursing mugs of black coffee, when we heard it a buzz, a thud, and then this grown man wailing like he'd just met his maker. We bolted toward the noise, and there he was, Derek Holt, the Cedar Hills HOA patrol guy, sprawled in the dirt, his khaki uniform snagged on our fence, one boot dangling like a bad punchline, and his clipboard flung into the weeds, still screaming about our illegal goat pen. I'm Caleb Monroe, 29, born and raised on Wheeler Farm in southern Kentucky, a patch of earth my family's worked for 3 generations. Hank, my granddad, is 72, a Korean War vet with hands like leather and a grin that says he's seen worse than some HOA lackey eating dirt. We grow sweet corn, tomatoes, and keep a noisy crew of goats, chickens, and a couple of months we pulled from the shelter. Life was simple: sunrise work, sunset beers, until the Cedar Hills HOA, a fancy gated community a mile down the road, decided our farm was their problem. Thing is, we're not in their HOA, never have been, never will be, but that didn't stop them from acting like they owned us. See, Cedar Hills sprouted up 5 years ago, all cookie-cutter mansions and lawns so perfect they look plastic. Their president, Marlene Voss, runs the place like she's the queen of a tiny country. Late 50s, always in crisp blazers, with a smile that's all teeth and no soul. She's got a thing for rules, the kind that say your mailbox can't be blue and your grass can't be a hair over 2 inches. Derek, her right-hand man, calls himself security, but he's just a guy with a walkie-talkie and too much time sniffing around like he's on a mission from God. They claimed our goat pen, a sturdy little setup for our 6 rescues, was an eyesore ruining their community vibe. Hank laughed when they first sent us a letter about it, said, "Vibe? My goats got more vibe than their whole damn subdivision." We tore up the letter, but they kept coming. It started small, notices in our mailbox about zoning concerns, emails about nuisance livestock. Then they got bold, showing up unannounced, snapping photos over our fence. Hank warned their director, a slick guy named Ray, after catching him peeking at our barn. "Next one of your boys climbs my fence," he said, "they're going to hop right in next week." Ray smirked like Hank was some old coot blowing smoke, but Hank doesn't bluff. Last summer, after they left a red-lettered final notice threatening fines, Hank rigged the fence with a low-voltage electric charge, solar-powered, legal in Kentucky, with bright yellow signs screaming electric fence. Keep off. Marlene called it hostile. We called it common sense. So when Derek hit that fence, chasing his clipboard mission to nail us for the goat pen, he wasn't just trespassing. He was poking a bear. We found him moaning, his radio crackling, his bald head shiny with sweat. Hank knelt, checked his pulse, and grunted, "He'll live. Shame his pride won't." Derek's clipboard had a note: Target, Wheeler Farm. Unauthorized livestock structure. Photograph for enforcement. I felt my gut twist. They weren't backing off. Hank picked up the clipboard, his eyes glinting. Time we give him a real show. Caleb. He headed to the shed, muttering about upping the juice, and I knew this was about to get wild. That morning, as Derek limped back to his HOA truck, 2 more Cedar Hills SUVs rolled up. Marlene stepped out, filming on her phone, shouting, "This is assault. You'll hear from our lawyers." Hank raised his coffee mug like a toast. "Bring him on, darlin'. Court's gonna love your boy's fence-climbing stunt." Then one of their SUVs gunned it toward our side gate, like they thought they could ram it down. Hank didn't blink, just said, "Wrong move." A pop sounded, smoke billowed, and the SUV stalled out. Hank's legal deterrent, a pressure-triggered flare box, had done its job. The driver, some young guy in sunglasses, stumbled out, coughing, while Marlene screeched, "You're unhinged, Hank Wheeler." Hank grinned. "Bless your heart, Marlene. You're going to shine in a mugshot." Our rooster, Duke, watched from a barn, crowing like he was cheering. I laughed, but inside I was rattled. This wasn't just about goats anymore. It was about our home, the place Hank and Nana built where I learned to drive a tractor before I could ride a bike. My ex Lila used to love it here, said the quiet was magic, no city noise, just crickets and wind. When she moved to Nashville for work, I stayed. This land's in my bones, and I wasn't letting Marlene's clipboard army take it. That night, Things got darker. At 1:47 a.m., I heard gravel crunch outside. I grabbed a flashlight, peeked through the blinds, and saw 3 shadows. Not HOA goons, but private security, all tactical vests and headsets, creeping toward the fence with wire cutters. My heart pounded. I woke Hank, who was already pulling on his boots. "Showtime," he whispered, grabbing a remote. He'd been tinkering in the barn for weeks, calling it Operation Go Guard, and now I saw why. He hit a button, and the farm lit up, floodlights blazing, sirens wailing from the barn to the chicken coop, even a speaker hidden in the berry bushes booming. "Trespassers, you're on camera. Sheriff's coming." One guy tripped over a feed trough, another bolted into the woods, and a third fumbled his radio. Useless, thanks to Hank's signal jammer. Duke dive-bombed the leader's head, feathers flying, and I swear that rooster was loving every second. Sheriff Dan, an old buddy of Hank's, showed up with deputies, catching the trio flat-footed. Their leader, Vince Carter, mumbled about a routine patrol for livestock violations, but Dan wasn't having it. "You're in tactical gear at 2 a.m. for goats?" he said, cuffing them for trespassing and attempted vandalism. Marlene pulled up in her Lexus, pearls gleaming, claiming it was a misunderstanding. Hank handed Dan a trail cam SD card. "Misunderstanding my ass. Here's your proof." Marlene snapped. "We have legal backing, Hank. You'll lose everything." Hank just leaned in, voice low. "Try me, Marlene. I've fought worse than you and won." We thought that'd slow them down, but the next day, a certified letter hit our mailbox, a lawsuit from Cedar Hills HOA, accusing us of endangering community safety and devaluing property, plus a zoning petition to fold our farm into their territory. If it passed in 30 days, we'd be under their thumb or forced to sell. I felt sick, but Hank was steel. "They're not swallowing our land, Caleb. Time to call in the cavalry." We headed to town, first to Sheriff Dan, who promised to keep the trespassing charges tight with video evidence. Then to Miss Ellie, the town librarian who knew every deed and map back to 1900. She dug up a gem, our farm's 1968 homestead designation, meaning no rezoning without a community vote, including Cedar Hills residents. "You get the town behind you," she said, "and that petition's dead." Hank hugged her, called her a national treasure, and we got to work. I posted everything online, Derek's zapping, the midnight raid, the lawsuit, on Kentucky Farm forums and our county's Facebook group. It blew up, thousands sharing, folks raging about HOA bullies. A news crew, led by Tara Hayes, came out, and Hank stole the show. "This farm feeds people, saves animals, teaches kids to grow their own food," he said, pointing at our fields. "What's Cedar Hills done? Fine folks for planting daisies." The story aired, showing Marlene dodging questions, her face tight as a drum, and Derek flopping in our dirt. Public opinion swung hard our way. But Marlene wasn't done. A week later, someone cut our coop fence and spray-painted "Leave or Else" on our silo. Worst of all, Duke vanished. We scoured the woods, the creek, nothing. Hank stared at Duke's empty perch, quieter than I'd ever seen him, and said, "They don't want the farm, Caleb. They want our spirit broken." That lit a fire in me. We printed flyers for a town meeting, rented the community hall, and Miss Ellie promised to bring her research. Friday night, the hall was packed. Farmers, shop owners, even some Cedar Hills folks fed up with Marlene. Hank took the mic, told our story from the first letter to Duke's theft, holding up a photo of that rooster like a battle flag. "They can steal a bird, burn our barn, but they won't take our roots," he said. The crowd roared, but outside, I saw Marlene's SUV, and in the back seat, Duke, caged, her smirking face daring us to react. I whispered to Hank, my fist tight. Sheriff Dan saw it too, radioed for backup, and we chased her to the Cedar Hills clubhouse. Marlene stood in the doorway, cool as ice. "Your bird wandered in my roses," she said. I pulled Duke's vet papers, microchip and all, and Dan handed them back with a glare. "You're done, Marlene." She laughed, venom in her voice. "I'll turn your farm into a putting green, Hank." Hank stepped close, eyes burning. "You crossed our fence, stole our family. Now you'll see what real fight looks like." Dan freed Duke, who crowed like he'd won the war, and we headed home, but sleep didn't come. At 1:03 a.m., a rock smashed our window, a note tied to it, "Get out now." Then the barn alarm screamed, "Fire." Flames ate the roof, smoke choking the air. We saved the animals, Duke, goats, chickens, with our dog Scout herding like a pro, but the barn was gone, Hank's pride reduced to ash. He sank to the ground, coughing, his face hollow, and for the first time, I saw him break. Dan arrived, called it arson, and vowed warrants for the HOA board. By morning, the town showed up, neighbors, farmers, even Cedar Hills defectors, bringing lumber, nails, coffee. Miss Ellie handed Hank a legal bombshell. The HOA's land claim was void, never county approved, and Marlene had siphoned $90,000 in HOA funds for her security goons. The county killed the rezoning, issued a restraining order against Marlene, and then came a knockout. Lori, Marlene's assistant, showed up, shaking, with a flash drive. "I recorded her," she said, tears streaming. "The fire, Duke." I couldn't stay quiet. Marlene's voice filled our kitchen. "Burn the barn. Scam out. The animals? Collateral." My stomach turned. We gave it to Dan, and by sundown, Marlene was in cuffs. Arson, theft, fraud, the works. The HOA imploded, board members quit, and the state opened a probe. We rebuilt the barn, fireproof, with cameras and lights, calling it the Rising Barn. Duke got a shiny free farm tag, strutting like a king. Hank slept sound again, his restraining order tucked in his shirt, a badge of survival. I started a blog, Farm Line Fight, sharing stories of folks battling HOAs, because Marlenis are everywhere, but so are Hank's. The town formed a landowners group, and at a state farm summit, Hank's speech birthed the Homestead Defense Act, curbing HOA overreach. Marlene took a plea. For years probation, fines, a public apology, banned from Kentucky HOAs. Hank said, "Too light," and Duke crowed agreement. A young family, new to the area, came by last spring, spooked by their own HOA. Hank poured them coffee, shared our playbook, legal proof, community muscle, heart. "Don't fight dirty," he said. "Fight true, with folks at your back." That's our legacy now, not just dirt and goats, but a spark for anyone facing a bully with a clipboard. As the sun set, Hank looked at the hills. "They thought they'd fence us in," he said, grinning. "All they did was light our fire." So what's your take? Was Hank a hero or too hardcore? Got your own HOA nightmare? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear how you fought back or if you think we went too far. Like, subscribe, and let's keep these stories alive, because every fence line's got a fight worth telling.